to be appointed in that position. This comes as KQ struggles to return to profitability after years of losses caused by a slump in tourism, high financing costs caused by the purchase of new planes, as well as management shakeups. Here to give us some insight into where things stand now is Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. The board meeting today, what changes can we expect regarding the turnaround of Kenya Airways?
Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to share with you. Like I said before, Kenya Airways is a listed company. And so sometimes you're constrained as to how much we can say.
Right.
But I'm glad to say that certain things happened today, whereby the board meeting took place. And now it's formal that they have a new chairman in the name of Michael Joseph.
Yeah.
I think we are quite excited about it because from the history, the track record of Michael Joseph, I think we have very high expectations and confidence that indeed the recovery path of Kenya Airways will be accelerated.
Yeah.
As you know, in the last 2 years, it's been very challenging.
Yeah.
But we should commend the board and management, actually, because in the last 6 months, there has been quite a major change. For the first time, they are breaking even in terms of operating profit. And that's a big major achievement, because if you look at the airlines globally, most airlines are really struggling. And so we believe that with Michael Joseph coming in, with having proper structures in place,
then you'll see a trajectory.
There will be a fairly good transition to profitability.
And you've touched on something where the airline is expected to release its half-year financial report tomorrow. You've touched on it slightly, but what can we expect? What should we expect?
Okay, what they did was about 7 days ago, they did release what they call the interim or abridged half-year results. And those were made public. In those results, you find that in terms of the operating profit, before they charge of financing costs, FS costs, hedging costs, they are actually breaking even and actually made a positive contribution. However, they still got a big load in terms of financing because, they had these expensive planes which were loaded on the balance sheet. We had hedging, which, as you know, didn't go very well. So because of that, they'll be reporting bottom line, possibly a loss of about 5 billion. But this is a major improvement from last year.
Yeah.
And we believe that now with the expensive assets having been offloaded from the balance sheet, in the next 6 months we should see a very big, we should expect to see a big change.
All right. You've talked a little bit about some of what came out of the board meeting today. We saw the emotive issues arising, especially from CALPA. We saw that they wanted some people pushed out of the organization. Are they satisfied now following the meeting today? Is it still early days?
Well, I think we had, as you know, certain demands which were made by CALPA. And to some extent, some of those demands were unreasonable.
Which ones?
Because they wanted like a blanket change of the entire management, a blanket change of the structures. In any institution, you can't do that, especially in the airline industry. The pilots know, and Captain Paul Gishiga is my friend, he knows. Even for the airline which he flies, the aircraft which he flies, when they decide to take off or to land, they don't go vertical, they don't go nosedive. They go smoothly for about maybe 20 minutes, and they land. But they wanted us to take the entire management suite through the mouth. Yeah,
but that seemed like it was coming from deep-set frustrations, disappointment. Maybe they had reason to want something blanket, even though it was unreasonable. But do you get the sense now that they're satisfied, that they're happy with the direction that things are going, or do you feel like a lot more will need to be done to assure the staff at Kenya Airways?
Actually, frankly, a lot has been done. We did say when we did the governance summit in State House that 70% of the management, if you look at the last 2 years, actually they've gone. But the problem was they were equating management with one position of CEO, which should not be the case. But now, because we have a proper, if you like, board constituted with the leadership of Michael Joseph, now we can now leave them to make sure they can turn around the structures. Because where we sit as government, we don't run the institution. We oversight because we are shareholders. But in terms of governance, in terms of employing the CEO, the management, that is the responsibility, the mandate of the board. So now we expect Michael Joseph and his team to carry on from where we just stopped.
And to make certain decisions.
I'm sure they'll be making certain decisions, which we don't know what it will be.
Right.
We don't want to speculate.
We don't want to speculate, but the thing is the forensic audit is out. People have to be held accountable. How soon before we begin to see prosecutions being made, before we actually begin to see people being held accountable? Because there was a feeling of deep rot in some areas of this whole Kenya Airways shake-up. Some people do need to be held accountable. Will we see that happen?
I couldn't agree more. In fact, when Deloitte was doing this forensic audit, we were pushing, please give us this report. It took too long to come out because it was very detailed, it was very deep. And we have said it because we have a subcommittee of cabinet, which I chair. We have actually said that whoever is mentioned, it's expected that they'll take responsibility.
Okay.
And whoever it is, we just want to make sure that by the end of this month, we start seeing things happening. Whoever is mentioned, thereafter, there must be prosecution.
By the end of October, that's in a few days.
In a few days,
a few weeks or so.
We expect that this report to have been completely digested by the board, and they take action against the people who actually caused all the misery to this key institution of government of this country. Going
back to Michael Joseph, is he coming in as executive chairman? Could you confirm that for us?
He's not executive chairman because that you mean a lot of things. For example, if you are executive chairman, it means you are CEO, and you have to have certain compliance issues with the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. But he's coming. We have told him and his team that they have 100% support from us. So in terms of being hands-on, I'm sure he'll be hands-on. Even if he's not executive, I'm sure with the commitment, with the passion which he has demonstrated, we believe that Michael Joseph will be almost acting as executive, but he's not executive. Because he'll be very committed and passionate in terms of driving this business. What is the role of KLM in all these changes, the position of KLM? Well, as you know, they are shareholders, the core shareholders in government. They have 26%, we have 29%. There was a JV which I know has been discussed before, which was done in 1996 between KQ and KLM. Of course, as times change, there may be need to review some of these things. Because whereas 1996, KQ required a partner with international network. It was looking forward to rebranding itself. But now, given the kind of motions of strategic phase it has gone through, there may be possibly a case for that, some of those documents and agreements to be reviewed. All right. Yes. The share price of KQ has been on a 9-month high, I believe. Does it mean that KQ is a safe place for investors? Can you confidently say that? Well, if I was to invest, you wouldn't get a better possible place to invest because it went very low because people lost confidence. But what I'm gathering in the market is that now people can see a future, prospective future, bright future in Kenya Airways. No wonder the price is going up because Kenyans are very good in buying shares. But that's for them to decide after getting advice from their brokers. Right. Yes. Okay. Obviously, Kenyans are hoping for the best. It's the pride of Kenya, as it's called. It's been an emotive issue for many people, so we'll continue to follow up on that. We want to move on to something else, which is the standard gauge railway. I think that's another issue that's been at the forefront. The Mombasa-Nairobi lines are complete. Phase 2 is upon us. How confident is government, is your ministry, that this project will have the desired economic impact? Well, that question has been asked before many times, Janet. And mainly because the cost involved is huge. I mean, the first phase is 327 billion shillings. Second phase, 120 billion shillings. For us to have committed government to borrow so much money, we had to do our sums. And we realized that the payback period may be long, but when it comes, it will be a major transformation for this country. You've seen countries globally. There is no country which ever developed without a proper railway network. You go to UK, British Rail, you go to the US. So this was a necessity. And what Kenyans need to understand is that not only is this a railway, but it's actually connecting the port of Mombasa with the hinterland of this region. And so port of Mombasa, for example, the kind of uptick, the uptick of cargo from Mombasa would never have been possible if we didn't have the SGR. And so in terms of recovery of the kind of cost we are incurring, it will actually come sooner than expected.
Right. So that's for the skeptics, because there's obviously people who are still skeptical. There's also been the environmental issues. I don't know how prepared government is to compensate those who are affected in terms of relocation, because we saw a lot of outcry regarding the different channels it was going to rope into. So where are we with regards to the people who have been affected, especially in terms of where they live?
Well, I think for people, they're being compensated. The issues which came recently were about animals.
Right.
You know, which is
also
very
a key concern, yeah.
Very, very important. And that's why we commissioned a lot of study. We asked KWS to work with us. We reviewed about 7 options across the park. And it took long, because you had to take with helicopters, you know, with this KWS board, the Ministry of Environment. Eventually, we had to look at the 7 options and decided out of the 7, KWS can recommend one of them, which they did. However, because Kenya is very democratic, as you know, we don't force things on people before we engage. We had to make sure that we go through the due process. Somebody went to court, and so we cannot go into the park until the court process has been completed. We launched the second phase last week on the 19th, but we did it outside the park, you know, Ingong, as we try to clear now these issues of the park.
Okay, so in a sense, there's some reprieve, you would say.
There's a lot of reprieve.
There's a lot of reprieve in that sense.
And consensus as well.
Okay, which is important. Do we still see the SGR getting to Malaba?
Yes, well, yes. You see, the railway does not stop in Malaba even. It actually goes to Kampala, because when it was actually conceptualized, it was done as one project for the 4 countries. So the 4 heads of states, you know, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Southern Sudan, had to send a document saying this is the project from Mombasa to Kampala, Juba, and all these places. And so we are doing our part. The good thing, Kenya is taking leadership by making sure we are ahead of the other countries, for them to have confidence that indeed the railway will get into the border of Malaba. Phase 2A, as you know, we have broken ground. The 5-kilometer tunnel is already under construction. And then after Naivasha, we do the economic zone, you know, in Malaba, so in Naivasha. Then from there, we take now phase 2, which we shall call phase 2B, which will come from, it will come from Naivasha to Narok, to Bomet, Nyamila, Kisumu. Kisumu shall do a major port, $140 million, new port, which will give us capacity to actually take goods across the shores. Then from Kisumu, we shall go now to Malaba. In Kenya, we have completed its obligation. Okay. Yes.
So you've talked about 2 very key projects there, of course, KQ with all the issues and SGR. You, as the CS of transport, it must be daunting, because it's like you're coordinating everything, things that are projects economically viable, but there's a lot of emotive issues as well. What for you is the biggest challenge in trying to get work done? What would you say is the biggest challenge in terms of delivering on these huge dreams that will definitely have great implications for the future of Kenya?
I think the biggest challenge is you have to be prepared to take hard decisions. You are aware, sometime early this year, we terminated the construction of the Greenfield terminal at the airport, which, as you know, had been launched previously. But you have to take a hard decision. You do not construct a project just because it's been launched. So in this kind of projects, you have to look at what is the future viability of the project. And we decide, shall we do it or drop it? Even SGR, if we came and thought from Nairobi going on once is not viable, we would have actually cancelled it.
But how come that wasn't seen before the launch?
Which one?
Well, this was just hindsight. It was launched, and then later you came and saw this is inviable, it's not working.
No, you see, there are many parameters. We have changes in economic and development, and you have to be adaptable.
Sure.
Over the years, things have changed. And then we came and said, look, for the airport, for example, we had done what we call Terminal 1A, Terminal 1 arrivals, one-way departures, right? New terminals, you've seen them. We did Terminal 2E. We just finished Terminal 1E. With all that, we had now capacity to take us to 2025. So the GFT, the Greenfield Terminal, could wait as a result of that, and then use the money for other purposes. So to come back to your question, you require a lot of coordination in this kind of infrastructural ministries. We have 5 departments dealing with infrastructure, And so we have to make sure they are coordinated to avoid overlap and wastage of public funds.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for talking to us on Business Center, Bonas. Yes, and we'll be coming back to some of these key issues once again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Right, you're watching Citizen Business Center. We'll be back after this break.